And welcome back to the program. As far as we've come, it's still taboo to talk about depression and mental health with some people. But we want you to meet a former big league baseball player who's telling anyone and everyone he can, you don't have to suffer alone. John Troutwine's son, Will, committed suicide after battling depression. So John brought his son's story to the ball field. CBS 46's Christopher King has the story.
When John Troutwine heard the news Robin Williams took his life, the painful memories of his own son, Will, came rushing back.
Whenever we hear of any sort of a suicide, we immediately think of our boy, Will.
Like Robin Williams, Will Troutwine seemed to be on top of the world.
The parallels are very, very similar between my son and Robin Williams.
Will played for his lacrosse team, was a musician, popular at school, and loved by his classmates, friends, and family.
Nobody expected that a boy like my son Will would want to take his own life.
Like the award-winning actor, Will Troutwine carried a burden he hid from the world.
Both Robin Williams and my son suffered from depression.
John Troutwine, a former pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, brought his message to the Gwinnett Braves.
They can really help motivate the teenagers of today.
That message, depression, even among teens, can kill. But there is help.
It's curable, it's treatable, and it's okay.
Young members of the Will to Live Foundation threw out the first pitch at Coolray Stadium in Will's honor.
He was strong. He was the guy that everybody else leaned on.
Hayden Cox was one of Will's closest friends.
There's help, and there's always something to look forward to.
Most of all, Troutwine wants young people to know they are loved.
We're telling kids to love each other. We're telling kids to recognize that they have true love in their lives.
Troutwine says depression is not a weakness. It isn't something to be ashamed of. Now, on the show, thank you so much. This is Dr. Sherry Blake. Appreciate you being on the program.
Well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Tell us what you do.
I'm a clinical psychologist. I work with everyone. I work with children. I work with adolescents and adults. More recently, I do a lot of work with the media in terms of reality TV show. You've seen me maybe on the Real Housewives of Atlanta or the Braxton Family Values. And, you know, one of the things I have enjoyed in terms of working with celebrities and entertainers, as well as working with everyday people, the symptoms are the same. The issues remain, and we have to address those.
Would you say from your experience that there is you said that the symptoms are the same, but is it compounded when you're a celebrity and have depression versus just somebody that's not a celebrity?
Absolutely. It is so compound. Everybody has a camera these days. Everybody's a journalist. Everybody's a photographer. So you cannot afford, many times as a celebrity, to look depressed or to appear down or to appear that you have a weakness, because there's going to be someone taking a picture with your hair not done, disheveled, or whatever the case. So people put on a mask, they smile, and they go out in public, but inside they're really hurting.
And so do you find that a lot of celebrities need someone like you to help them, you know, with their issues like that?
Absolutely. And they want help, but a lot of times it's very difficult to reach out for help, because just like everyday population, sometimes they don't know which way to go. They feel hopeless. They feel helpless, but they know that the public is depending on them, and they go out and they perform. So when something happens, they go, God, what happened? People go, I never would have guessed he had it all. But the reality is there are telltale signs. And, you know, only those that are the closest, on that inner circle, oftentimes pick up on the telltale signs. And I'm very glad that more and more athletes, more and more entertainers, celebrities are reaching out for help. They're talking about it. And the more they talk about it, the more the public says it's okay. And I would like for people to know it is okay to seek help.
Dr. Blake, I have a question just about depression and how it may vary from individuals that are in a different gender or race. Is there a difference? Do you find that, you know, some have more challenges with this issue?
Absolutely. In the African American community in particular, it's a stigma. It's a stigma across the board, because in America, we typically will not talk about mental health. I tell people mental health is your health. It is just as important as physical health, and you have to take care of yourself. But in some communities, again, particularly the African American community, there's this whole stigma that I have to be sick or crazy if I talk about my problems. And usually people just go to their loved ones go to the person now, the barber, the beautician, sometimes the church, to seek help, but they will not deal with the issue at hand.
So how do you overcome depression? Just by talking with someone like a psychologist like yourself, or a doctor? How do you get through it?
Well, first of all, you have to recognize it for what it is. Many times people say, oh, she's just having a bad day, or he'll get over it. And a loss is a loss, and sometimes things happen, people will not deal with it, and they say, well, you'll be okay. But once you understand that it is not just a bad day, it's not just having the blues, you are depressed and there's some issues with it, you have to seek help. I tell people, you wouldn't think twice if you had diabetes to go and get medication. You wouldn't think twice to go for something physical, but the stigma prevents people from reaching out. So once they come and once they realize there is a problem and it's not going away, and they decide to seek help, many times the first person they seek help from is their physician. And so it is the medical community that often refers to us to say, hey, listen, this person has a problem. And once they come in and start talking, we talk about the issues, look at the sources of depression, and sometimes they need medication, sometimes they don't. Okay. It all depends.
So getting it off your chest and recognizing that there is an issue and maybe medication can help you overcome this, and you can survive.
And I'd like to say there's a difference in just talking as opposed to doing therapy. A lot of people say, well, why would you go in and just talk to somebody? We talk with a purpose, we have a plan. We are trained to really deal with issues and to unravel and pick apart some of those things that people had not thought about. So it's not just talking like, oh, then we're just going to go in and chat. No, it's work.
Interesting. And so what are some of the things that you talk to these patients or individuals about when they come in to help them through it?
We look at some of the stressors in their lives. We look at the source of what's going on. We look at those risk factors that you talked about earlier. We look at the signs that have been there all along but no one has picked up. We look at what is really going on with this person. This is where you are. How do you get to the next phase? How do we help you move out of this? And we help process that in terms of doing treatment plans, looking at what those issues are. If it's a child, it may involve the family. If it's an adult, it may involve their loved ones. But we have to bring people in and we talk about the issues at hand. But if you don't work through it, it's not going to go away. It's not going to disappear.
And you just have to break through that stigma barrier and realize it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to seek help, and you can make it through and you'll be fine. One
of the greatest things that I would like to also share, I think the more people talk about it on the news, the more you do shows like this, the more we see it, even on reality shows, it's okay to seek help. And that's got to be our message. And mental health is just as important as your physical health.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sherry Blake. You were fantastic on the show today.
Thank you.
Very helpful information. Now, comedy clubs like the Punchline were a second hope for Robin Williams. And coming up, local comedians share a little insight they have of Williams' amazing talent and personal demons, which is what we've been talking about here with this depression issue today. Stay with us. Public Affairs on Peach is coming up right after the break.